Nintendo's plans for Mario's 40th anniversary celebration have officially been unveiled, and I gotta say, seems underwhelming, suspiciously so, especially for a milestone as massive as the 40th anniversary. In fact, it's so odd that I actually refuse to believe that's all they have in store between now and the end of the 41st anniversary. That's not just copium. I fully believe there's more to come, and it's solely based on Nintendo's own actions. I can't lie, I didn't hate what Nintendo had to show for Mario's 40th anniversary, but I will say it was definitely more tepid than I expected. On a recent episode of my podcast Directly to You, I had Bob Wolf on and we touched on this idea. I have my own personal thoughts on what would have made it better, but I never got a full picture on what would have made it satisfying for Bob. So I'm just gonna call him.
Hello, do I need to have my camera on?
Yes, turn your camera on. We talked about the Mario anniversary. You said you weren't happy about it. What would have made you happy? Tell me what, if you wrote it.
Mario Maker 3, and it's 3D.
Okay,
Problem solved. Is that it? Fixed. I love Mario now.
You got no other details?
We talked about it during the podcast. I was expecting a little bit more for our 40th anniversary. It's disappointing that they didn't have much of anything at all for Mario's 40th anniversary. I hope my birthday is a little better than Mario's birthday when I hit that number. Mario 35, I think, was a really cool celebration for the 35th anniversary. I don't want Mario 40. I want like some little fun little thing I can nom on. I don't necessarily think that like a Mario Galaxy movie or like the DLC for Mario Wonder, I don't think that's specifically Mario anniversary coded. I think that's just, we have to do something with the Mario IP, and oh yeah, it's his 40th anniversary. I want something that is like a little cute little thing specifically for me.
I'm definitely not as big of a Mario fan as Bob, but I have been hoping to see the future of 3D Mario games, in particular since Odyssey in 2017, and the brief glimpse we got from Bowser's Fury just made that desire even greater. I think the 40th anniversary would be a great time to make that happen, and history says there's a good chance that it still could. Let's get into some evidence, shall we? Much like a lot of the other things the Nintendo community online has been fear-mongering about in the Switch 2 era, we've been here before, and not just in the relatively distant past, but a little under 2 years ago. And not just that, but literally the days that followed the most recent Nintendo Direct. Or even better still, let's talk about the most recent gold standard, Mario's 35th anniversary. The trajectory of that milestone was very similar to this one in the sense that Nintendo was quiet when everyone expected them to come into the year with announcements for the occasion. And much like what ended up happening for the September 2025 Nintendo Direct, Mario's slate of games and other projects for the 35th anniversary were revealed in a very similar way. Let's look at a direct comparison. In the September 2025 Direct, Nintendo announced the Super Mario Bros. Wonder Switch 2 Edition, Mario Galaxy Remasters and Amiibo, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, and Mario Tennis Fever. In Nintendo's initial Mario 35 celebration, outside of the accessories and non-Switch game announcements, Nintendo announced Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, Mario 35, 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, and 3D All-Stars. Within that same anniversary year, outside of that event, Nintendo also released Mario Golf Super Rush and WarioWare Get It Together, and just a month outside of that window, Mario Party Superstar. I point that out to say, these events never really fully encompass what they could. The framing is usually hyper-specific, and all they seem to care about is timing rather than being comprehensive. Like, if they really wanted to, they could include Mario Kart World in these festivities and make a big deal about how it could have been the biggest announcement from this year in the Mario universe. But they didn't, and that was definitely very intentional on their part. This kind of feels thrown together, and it's thrown together in a way that like they could have even made it seem more impressive if they wanted to. Like the fact that they didn't say anything about Mario Kart World is weird to me. Like if it was something that they didn't have anything intentional for, I feel like that's what you do. You're like, oh yeah, and also we did Mario Kart World, and there's Mario Strikers on the NSO. You throw everything that you did related to Mario. But this feels like they're like, all right, we got a few little morsels that you could chew on, but maybe there's more.
Yeah, give me something specifically anniversary related. I want the Mario 40 stamp on it, like we had with Mario 35.
Unlike every other major company in the space, Nintendo very clearly cares a lot about urgency. The announcements they make are almost always for games that are 6 to 8 months away at most, because the few times they strayed away from that, we ended up with projects like Shin Megami Tensei 5, Bayonetta 3, and Metroid Prime 4, games that all ended up being in development hell for nearly a decade. If the Switch era has showed me anything, it's that Nintendo is dead set on not repeating certain mistakes. When I say this, please don't get lost in the weeds. I don't mean things that gamers don't like. I mean decisions that genuinely negatively impacted them beyond people being angry on the internet. There's examples of this in the design of the Joy-Con 2 analogs being re-engineered to limit the chance of drifting. The difference in how Nintendo approached feedback from developers for features of the console, and absolutely in the way they market everything around it to this day. I think their biggest marketing lesson is how rollouts can function in the modern day. They didn't spend a year or more talking about the Switch 2 before it hit store shelves. We didn't hear a single project code name from them, and that's highly unusual if you look at their history. They announced the console in February, fully revealed it in April, and it released in June. Their biggest games to date were announced in April and came out less than 4 months later. People are so used to being hype trained to death that they assume if games aren't being announced based on the hype they can generate during a presentation alone, these games aren't coming at all. Again, if this console cycle has taught me anything, it's that Nintendo has moved away from that being their priority. They only announce games when they can create a sense of urgency and focus around them, not just to get a big headline, because the times that they did that in the past led to us twiddling our fingers for 6+ years. And more importantly to them, Nintendo has things they want to build hype around that are a lot closer, and they're a lot different than what was being marketed for the majority of Switch's life. And that relatively new development is another reason I think we may have more on the way. In 2023, Nintendo fans were doing their typical doom and gloom song and dance. No more major announcements after Tears of the Kingdom. Nintendo was definitely revealing Switch 2. You had to be there. It was insufferable. Fast forward to June and everything changed. We got a series of Mario franchise spin-offs and remasters, much in the same way that we got Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 this year. But in addition to that, we got a brand new Mario game in the form of Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
Now, I feel like you're probably going to mention this, but there is a possibility that holiday next year is a brand new Mario game.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make sense for them to release a brand new Mario game this year. like right now for the 40th. So I'm not saying fart out a game for your 40th anniversary. I'm just saying give me a little taste of something for Mario's 40th. Give me a little thing to celebrate with, you know? Not Mario Wonder DLC. I can give two shits about that.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I'm usually opposed to far out announcements. If it's more than 9 months, don't even show me. I don't even care. But for this, for the 40th, you know, I wouldn't be mad.
Oh, you're saying they should say something now if they're releasing a game next year.
I mean, you know what? You know, it would be ideal for me, what I would be excited for, and I wouldn't be like annoyed that it's too far out, even for this little exception that I'm making, March 10th. Because they're making that a little secondary Mario celebration, because they do Mario stuff on Mario's birthday.
They don't ever do anything on Mario 10. The Mario 10 has been like rarely. It's been pretty barren the last couple of years.
Yeah, for the last couple of years. But I'm just saying it's another window for them to like say more things. Some people assume this time will be different because of the existence of Donkey Kong Bonanza, given the fact that it was developed by the team behind Super Mario Odyssey. But I would argue this assumption is based on a misguided understanding of how these games are actually made and what being developed by that team actually means. Development teams within Nintendo are a lot more malleable than this description would suggest. Bonanza in particular is actually a perfect example of of this, with the new DLC staff varying heavily from the original game. And while we can't say for sure why that's the case, my suspicion is the development timeline and the relevant players within it were shuffled around like they always have been. Developers that worked on Bonanza also worked on Mario Kart World, and you can bet many of them worked on the upcoming Galaxy remasters, and they have been and will continue to be involved with various aspects of other projects that we haven't seen as well. After all, Donkey Kong Bonanza began development in 2017. People can't genuinely think every single developer involved in the production of 3D Mario games was actively working on Bonanza and only Bonanza during that time period. And again, I find it extremely hard to believe that Nintendo saw Odyssey become the best-selling 3D platformer of all time and decided to put AAA 3D Mario projects on ice for that entire time period for a Donkey Kong game. We know for certain they at least had 3D Mario on the mind when they created Bowser's Fury content for the 3D World Switch port. I'd argue that expansion is proof positive that they've been working on something much bigger for 3D Mario, because Bowser's Fury introduced the world to what open world Mario could look like. And I think it was their way of testing the waters for a bigger project that has already been in the works. That to me says that they were working on something and they were like, here, look at our homework, see if this works, and we can double down on it if it's really cool.
That was absolutely a test for a new Mario game for sure.
Speaking of which, someone we know very important hasn't worked on Donkey Kong Bonanza in a direct development capacity or any other game since Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury for that matter, and that is Yoshiaki Koizumi. And this is important to keep in mind because Koizumi was a producer on Super Mario Odyssey. I'm sure if you were around during the Switch era, you've seen his face plenty of times because he was the face for that game, other than Mario's face, obviously. On top of that, he's actually the person that assigned the Odyssey team to work on Donkey Kong Bonanza. But I think it's noteworthy that he himself didn't work on the project alongside them. I've always had my eyebrow raised at the fact that they've been doing that whole rollout for Donkey Kong Bonanza where it's like, it's the Mario, and they took forever to say that, by the way. It's the Mario Odyssey team, but Koizumi, he's nowhere to be found. He's not working on that game. Nintendo has since given him a bigger role at Nintendo EPD since the release of his last game, but I'll say developers with similar seniority and roles have still been actively involved with game development beyond advisory roles in the past. I don't think Koizumi is any different. I could absolutely see a world where he's helming a brand new 3D Mario game. And I think I also find it extremely hard to believe that they started, and we know this part specifically, that they started Donkey Kong Bonanza in 2017 and that they worked on that and only that from 2017 until 2025. Like,
well, we don't know if they only worked on that. I feel like they got a Mario in the pocket.
Nintendo EPD puts out like 20 games a year.
I'm frequently surprised by how many big developers have like multiple development teams like within them. There's also, I mean, high ups there that are working on multiple games at once. I don't think Sakurai's just working on Kirby Air Riders right now.
Yeah, man, Kid Icarus. And that's it. Kid Icarus, and that's it. No more Smash Brothers because they said it's ultimate. And the project Nintendo identified as the biggest part of Mario's 40th anniversary is actually the main reason I believe this. I think the Super Mario Galaxy movie is proof that we will get more, and it will be relatively soon, even if Nintendo themselves is currently saying the movie itself is the main event of their 40th anniversary celebration. I don't see a world where that movie doesn't culminate in them having a new game to promote around the film. Of course, the existing games are going to be a part of the movie's rollout. There will be promotional sales and all of that stuff. On a very surface level, I think it's kind of weird that they would announce Amiibo for Mario Galaxy without maybe some kind of Mario Galaxy game that's new that takes advantage of these new Amiibo. Although, I will admit, that's a bit tinfoil hattish, but my more grounded logic says they went way further with the first movie, and that was before they saw how it performed. Watch my video on the original Super Mario Bros. Movie's impact to better understand how much of a bigger deal the sequel could be. Thank you to paid members at shop.watchredirect.com like Trev L. Steinberg for making this video possible. Hit the link in the description to join them in the credits of every video and in receiving physical and digital perks.